Hello friends, today I'm going to discuss ALV report for functional consultant. So in interviews, you have to explain that you have worked on ALV reports, you have taken the requirement, you have written the functional specification and then pass it to the ABAPer to develop the custom report. ALV report is a very important report because you can sort the data, you can do the subtotal, email it, download, and change the layouts. And ALV report is part of the RICEF, which is our report. So normally all the reports are developed in ALV, ABAP list viewer. So ALV report has mainly three parts. You can divide for explanation. First thing is selection screen where the user will input the selection criteria. It can be range like date from and to. So if it's a range, then a ABAPer will write select option. Otherwise, if it's a single value, then it's parameter. And second part is data processing. So from which SAP table the data will be coming to the LV report. So there are statements like select statement which select the data from database tables. Then there is a keyword loop. So you loop the data and process it. And you can do the read statement to look up other table data. And there is if else statement. If this is true, then do this. If false, then do that. And finally report display. So a function module will be called reuse ALV grid display to display the ALV report. So for explanation, I'm taking one of the functional specification for ALV report, and this is one of the gap which was identified in the requirement gathering phase, that the standard report can't meet the business requirement. That's why we are developing this delivery schedule report. So this is the functional specification. I'm taking page by page for understanding. And there's the process overview. So process overview, what we are doing, why we are doing, and how we are going to achieve this. So logistics managers want to see the report on daily basis. There is a standard report ME80FN, but it has so many selection screen criteria and output. But the business want a specific selection criteria and a specific layout. That's why we are going to develop this report. And the name of the transaction code will be ZMM delivery schedule. And it will fetch the data from tables like EKKO, EKPO, EKET, EKES. So these are all SAP MM related tables for purchase orders, deliveries, vendor confirmation. So the business want that the selection screen should have seven fields to input, like delivery number, delivery date, purchase order, vendor, material, plant, company code. So this screen should be designed, and we call this screen selection screen. So this is the very first screen. When you run the transaction, the user will get this screen. Now once the user has given the input, then the report should process and select the data from EKKO table, EKPO table, EKET table, EKES table. So this logic you have written that purchase order number, vendor, creation date, created by, company code, these fields needs to be selected from header table. And similarly material number, material tax, quantity, unit should be picked from EKPO, which is purchase order item table. And similarly from EKET table for schedule line agreements. And finally vendor confirmation from EKES. And the ALV output should be first thing to display in the column purchase order, then item, created by, and purchase order, creation date, vendor. So we have listed everything here. open quantity, deliver quantity. And in the functional specification, finally we will do the testing. So first of all, we'll do the validation on the selection screen. Whatever user is giving the input, it should be correct. Otherwise, display the error message. And for successful step, the report should run and display the correct data. So this is the functional specification. Now I'll take you to the actual report in SAP. So this is the custom transaction code, and the selection screen is designed as per the IFS. So you will talk about the selection screen, and when you execute, you will get the ALV report. It's like this. So this is matching our layout suggested by the business. So now I'll explain the parts of the ALV report, which is useful for functionals. To get the ALV report, program needs to be written in transaction code SE38, and the selection screen is designed here, which said select options VBLN, EINDT, EBLN. So these are the selection screen you see or when you run the transaction. And parameter is single value. So for the company code, it can take only single value. Now these are the structures designed to hold the data, and this is the validation part. So if user gives the wrong input, then error message will be displayed, invalid plant. Now to select the data from the database table, there is one event, start of selection, and perform is written. Perform is a block of code. So in this perform, select statements are written. See, select the fields from table, and this is the where clause. On what basis you want to select the data. So this is the select statement. Similarly, select the data from schedule line tables. This is the selection criteria. And as I mentioned, the loop, you can loop the table, which is EKET for schedule lines, and you can get the open quantity based on the quantity open, quantity delivered and what is the required. So if you take the difference, you will get the open quantity. So that is the selection part, and then we process the data so that it fills the ALV table. And to display the records on ALV report, there is one thing, field catalog. So field catalog is the column which you see on the ALV report. So first column will be purchase order number, second will be purchase order item, similarly PO created by, PO creation date. So this will make the columns on the ALV report. And finally, you call a function module, pass the table and the layout. The report will generate the desired output. So these are the field catalogs of the ALV report, and this is your final output. So this is very much for functional consultant, because you can get so many things on YouTube for ABAPers. And I have already explained what are the main things in ALV report. The first thing is the selection screen. Second thing is the fetching of data, and finally the report layout. And from the functional specification, you have to run the transaction and validate the ALV report. So this is mainly to explain in interview what are the LV reports, have you worked on LV report, and have you designed the functional specification, and what are the key inputs required in the functional specification. As I have mentioned here, why we doing it, how we doing it, and why we doing it. And this is the field output of the LB report, and this is the selection screen design, and this is the report logic, how to process the data. So thank you very much for listening, and happy learning. Bye.